This is the Louie T Network.
See, first come the preseason, and I don't take a day off. And then my team was 6-10, and we ain't smell the playoffs. Yeah, I seen the Super Bowl, but I heard they just play balls. A lot of teams had injuries. Sam Bradford had to take off. Go hard in the offseason, but you don't know the half. Before you know, we gon' look up, and we ready for the draft. They dressed up in that suit tie, and I don't know how to act. They waiting, so patient, so they can put on that hat. Who else could it be? But your man Luke. Okay, so when she asks you where you was at, you tell her you in the lab room. Who else could it be? Who? But your man Luke. Okay, so when she asks where you was at, you can tell her you was in the lab room. Yeah.
Who else could it be but me, Dormant? Louie T, welcome. You are in the lab room. Of course, I'm your host, Luke. Thank you for joining me. Week 17 in the National Football League. Sunday Night Football, Week 17. They usually save the best for last. This was no exception. Green Bay Packers at home hosting the Minnesota Vikings. All the marbles are on the line in this NFC North family business matchup. Winner takes the NFC North division. This wasn't one of those situations like we've seen in the past, the last couple of years on Sunday night, where the winner takes the division and the loser goes home empty-handed. Both of these teams already knew they were going to the postseason. This was all about seeding. This was all about being able to call yourself a champion of the division. And so this was a big game, especially for the upstart Vikings. Young team coached by an older coach, but a young head coach in this league in Mike Zimmer. Second year under Zimmer with this young Vikings team, and they were looking to try to really make some noise in this division, make some headway, and show not only the Packers and the rest of the teams within the North, but the teams around the league that they're a team to be reckoned with. And putting a division title under your belt is exactly how you get the attention of those around you. So this was a big game for the Vikings. For the Packers, you look at this team and they've become a little jaded. They're winning this division last 4 or 5 years strong, but the injuries have set in. The injuries along the offensive line. We know about the Jordy Nelson injury that happened before the season, and now this team is starting to look vastly different. Both of these teams coming into this game playing different types of football. Vikings came into the game riding a 2-game winning streak, feeling really good about where they were heading into this final contest versus the Packers. Meanwhile, the Packers had come off of their most lopsided defeat of the season, 38-8 in Arizona, where they were thoroughly dominated in every facet of the game. And so this had the makings of an upset for the Vikings. And some people thought the Vikings were going to win this game. I was not one of them. I thought the Vikings were one season away from winning this division, or being very competitive to the point where the Packers would have to take this division from them late in the season instead of it being the other way around. But I was really wrong about the outcome of this game, and I was more so basing my decision off of what I had seen from these two teams about a month and a half ago, where the Packers went to Minnesota and dominated the Vikings 30-13, and I felt like that's what the formula was going to be for the Packers in this game. Establish the run with Eddie Lacy, stop Adrian Peterson from running the football, and shorten the game. Give yourself an opportunity to put a couple of points on the scoreboard. Meanwhile, stopping the Vikings' rushing attack would force Teddy Bridgewater, to have to beat you, in which I didn't think he was ready to do. And frankly, I still don't believe he's ready to do that just yet. And so I thought that the Packers had the blueprint for winning this division by beating the Minnesota Vikings. What I couldn't account for was the simple fact that the Packers' offensive line is going to be brutally bad once again. And this time to the point where it would cost them points in this ball game. They were terrible a week ago against Arizona. They were terrible again in this game. And so the Vikings were able to take advantage of it. Don't take anything away from this Vikings team. Don't just try to put it all on Green Bay and their inability to protect Aaron Rodgers. They played a magnificent game defensively. Xavier Rhodes may have played his best game as a Minnesota Viking. They targeted him at least 8, probably 9 times in this game, and I thought he was outstanding throughout. I thought Everson Griffin took advantage of Josh Sitton moving over from guard to tackle for the first time in his career in this game. He was impactful, including the fumble that would be the game-winning score, scooped up by Captain Munnerlyn and run in for a touchdown. I thought that was a huge turning point in this game because at the time it was 13-3. Packers are still within striking distance at the time. That fumble turned this game into a 20-3 game, and it felt like this game was over. And if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan, you probably felt the same way, but there were some things that happened in this game, and I'm still a little doubtful as to whether Teddy Bridgewater can carry this team, because this was not a tremendous night for Adrian Peterson. Packers loaded up the box to stop Adrian Peterson. He still had solid stats, but nothing earth-shattering. He didn't have one of his patented runs in this game. Didn't have a big, grown man 2-yard touchdown run. But outside of that, it was a really tough day for him. Actually hurt his back in the game. Left, came back later on in the game to try to help salt it away. But Teddy Bridgewater, being special and not in a good way, left-handed interception. It's pretty hard in this league to throw a left-handed interception when you're right-handed. You have to try really hard to do something as incompetent as that. Only the really bad quarterbacks in the league do something as special as a left-handed interception, but he did do that, and it did change the game temporarily. Luckily enough for him, that didn't produce any points for Green Bay. Cordell Patterson fumbles the football. Luckily enough for him, that didn't result in Green Bay Packer points. But the Packers did make this an interesting game, coming as close as 20-13 with the football, with a chance for a Hail Mary at the very end. And we've seen them have a miracle earlier in the season, the Motor City Miracle on a Thursday night where Richard Rodgers climbs the ladder, goes up and snags the football down as the Packers shock the Lions. As time expires, this was not going to be a repeat of that as the Vikings got down the field, and Xavier Rhodes, who I talked about having a stellar night, was able to go up there along with Anthony Barr and ensure that Richard Rodgers wasn't able to duplicate what he had done earlier in the season. And he tried, trust me, he tried to get his hands on that football, but it was not to be, as the Minnesota Vikings go into Green Bay and win this football game 20-13. I thought it was an outstanding game by the Vikings defense. Offensively, there was a lot left to be desired. I'm still not sold on Teddy Bridgewater being able to carry this team if someone were to come in and shut down the rushing attack. We'll see if he can do some things. And I'm not asking for him to go out and sling it 37 times for 313 yards and 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. What I'm looking for him to do is be more of a manager of the game. When shots are there, take them. Mike Zimmer talked about him not taking some opportunities to push the football down the field with open receivers in the first half, and him being more reluctant to throw it and more likely to run. And so I want to see him be more aggressive. I want to see him take some shots down the field. If guys are running open, look, this isn't college football. You can't wait till guys separate. You got to throw some guys open. I want to see the anticipation from Teddy Bridgewater and letting it rip. And you're going to play a Seattle Seahawks team now after winning this division, and it had to be bittersweet for Vikings fans, because if I was a Vikings fan, not only would I want to win the division and stick it to the Packers, but I want to be able to say we are getting a home game in the postseason. But then to look at who you would have to play because of winning this division, you start to say to yourself, I don't know if this was the best, in the best interest of the ball club, because now you go back home to play a Seattle Seahawks team that is red hot, that slaughtered you at their house just a month and a half ago, 38-7, and maybe you want revenge. Maybe you think you're a better football team this time around. Maybe you learned from the mistakes you made the first time, because you did that against the Packers and were able to beat them and be triumphant in this Week 17 matchup for the division. But this is a different animal you're dealing with in Russell Wilson and that red-hot Seattle Seahawks offense, a defense that's starting to hit their stride, shut down the Cardinals in Week 17, beat them up 36-6. Really don't know if this is the time you want to play the Seattle Seahawks, and they're getting Adrian and they're getting beast mode back in this football game. I think there's a lot of things, a lot of obstacles facing this Vikings team coming off of a huge win in Green Bay to win the division. Congratulations to the Vikings for getting that done. And I thought they were still a year away from getting this done, and it shows the maturation of this football team and what they were able to accomplish. Had some ups and some downs throughout the course of the season, but they were able to stay the course, and they have the same mindset and temperament as their head coach, Mike Zimmer, who had to wait his turn to get his opportunity to be a head coach, but since getting this opportunity has made the most of it in just 2 seasons, taking this Vikings team from one of the worst teams in the NFC North to now NFC North Champions. You look at the Packers, tough way to finish up the season. They've struggled the last 2 weeks to protect Aaron Rodgers. They've turned the football over. They've made some monumental mistakes, leading to points on the scoreboard for the opposition. They did it again in this game. They're struggling on a number of different issues and areas on this team right now. They gave up a huge return to Cordell Patterson. If not for Mason Crosby making a big play, the game might be over at that point, giving up a play on special teams. Defensively, they were solid, but they weren't great in this game. They didn't do enough to rattle the cage of Teddy Bridgewater and Adrian Peterson. So they needed to be a little bit more special. That play by Micah Hyde was pretty special, but they still didn't do enough. They needed to generate some more turnovers. They needed to be a little bit more special, get to Bridgewater and force him into some more mistakes. And they weren't able to do that on a consistent basis in this game. They did force him to make the big mistake on the interception, but they gave up some field goals, and they gave up the Adrian Peterson touchdown on a drive. And so you got to be able to try to generate some more, especially when the offense is struggling the way they are. You probably need to step it up a notch on defense. And it's hard to do that when your best corner is out of the lineup and you're relying on rookies on the outside to play man-to-man coverage if you're going to blitz. But sometimes you got to take that kind of risk and roll the dice if you're the Packers. Offensively, we know the story. Not getting enough separation with the receivers. Offensive line struggling to protect Aaron Rodgers. Musical chairs. You got Josh Sitton, your all-pro guard, starting at tackle for the first time in the season. And you got another guy starting at guard who's never started there in the league. And it's just a number of changes along that offensive line. And so they didn't get it done offensively. The running game wasn't as impactful as you would like it to be. Eddie Lacy had a solid game and a really good start, but really fizzled after that. James Starks really didn't give you anything in the run game. And the screen game, which had been huge the last month or so for this Packers team, a non-factor in this game. And I thought the Vikings did a great job of taking away the screen game, which is something the Packers love to do and have been utilizing very well over the last month of the season. So big win for the Vikings. They now go home and take on the Seattle Seahawks. That should be a compelling matchup. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers lose this football game, drop to the 5th seed in the NFC playoffs, and will head to the nation's capital to take on the Washington Redskins in the wild card weekend matchup on Sunday. So big win for the Vikings. Congratulations to the Minnesota Vikings for winning the NFC North. For the Packers, it's a tough way to finish up the season. Now you got to go on the road and be road warriors and see if you can't do what you did in 2010 when you ran that route all the way to the Super Bowl and won it. I am Louie T, and I thank you for joining me. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything. And now, National Football League. See you next time. There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at InTheLabRoom, or you can like the Facebook page at In the Lab Room. That's In the Lab Room on Facebook and at In the Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.
In the lab.